everyone, and welcome to Mintcasts, our Mint Press podcast series. I'm Mnar, Muhawesh, editor-in-chief of Mint Press, and I will be your host. Thanks again for joining today's conversation, where we will be discussing youth in journalism and how youth are helping shape today's politics. Today's youth are increasingly deemed apathetic when it comes to politics. And here to talk to me about this and more is Andrew. Is it Demeter?
Demeter.
Demeter. Okay, I should have asked you before we started, but it's Demeter.
No worries.
Andrew, no problem. So Demeter is 16 years old, a junior in high school, and founder of Teen Take, a video podcast where he sheds light on topics the mainstream media won't touch. He's also garnered press most recently for confronting Democratic House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi for her support of NSA data collection. He also won first prize in C-SPAN's nationwide student cam video competition for his documentary, We the People, Genetically Modified, which is a brilliant title, by the way. Andrew is passionate about giving our world's youth a much-needed voice in politics and journalism, and is currently working to launch Politicast, the first news channel to be run by teens in hopes to amplify their voice in American politics. So I actually want to start by asking you, Andrew, about your experience with Nancy Pelosi. And I know that you've been interviewed about this plenty of times, but I'd like you to tell me about what happened and why you felt the need to really call her out on her support for NSA data collection.
I was in D.C. because I had won a competition with C-SPAN that they annually host called Student Cam, which is a documentary competition for middle and high school students. And like you mentioned, I entered my entry about GMOs. And so I was one of the top 4 winners in that competition. So C-SPAN was kind enough to fly everybody down to D.C. And then we had like a couple days there. We got to be on C-SPAN, the whole group and I. And then one of the last events, actually on the last day when we were in D.C., we got to meet with Pelosi because she, for whatever reason, I'm not really sure, just to rub shoulders with some important people, I guess. And I just felt kind of compelled to call her out on her support of the NSA because, the NSA is something that is illegal. It goes against the 4th Amendment to the Constitution, which protects against unreasonable search and seizure. And I just felt that when you get that close to someone that powerful, it's just something that you either say you're going to do this or you're not going to do it. And that was one opportunity I just didn't want to put to waste.
And what did you take back from that experience and having to call out a politician who's as big as Nancy Pelosi, as supposedly as important as she is? What have you taken back from that?
Probably 2 things. The first one being that, most politicians will take no responsibility for whatever policies they support. Pelosi's a great example of that because, she votes for these bills like supporting the NSA and stuff like that. And then when you call her out on it, she first tries to almost deny that she supports it, saying, oh, I didn't support it, whatever, trying to confuse you with like the conjuring of spirits that she does with her hands. And then, so then she goes on to blame Bush, essentially, which is just hilarious. And then the second thing that I took away from that also was trying to, how the revolving door with kind of politicians and media works, because I recorded the confrontation with my phone, and halfway through my phone ran out of memory conveniently. So then I had to get the other angle of that, the other half of that, from C-SPAN, and they initially wouldn't give me the footage. So eventually I had to just go through all this hassle of trying to get the footage from them and sending them like all these different USB flash drives for them to put it on in the mail, and some of them got lost and stuff. It was just a whole hassle in and of itself. So those are 2 things that I learned when confronting her in the whole experience.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your Politicast video podcast, which I think is really exciting. Tell me a little bit about that and why you started it.
Definitely. So the elevator pitch kind of for Politicast is that right now in America, in the world at large, really, the youth is apathetic, like you mentioned in the intro, Mnar, because at least here in America, you can't vote until you're 18. So, my thought process is, for what other teens are thinking, is that, well, if I can't vote until I'm 18, what difference can I legitimately make? Therefore, why should I bother taking an interest in politics? But fact is, as we all know too well, is politics affect everyone, regardless of anything. It transcends everything. And if you don't take an interest in politics, they'll take an interest in you. So my goal with Politicast is kind of twofold. The first step is to get the handful of teens, kind of like myself, who are already interested in politics and have sort of some background knowledge, get them on the air with this political broadcasting system or this broadcasting network. And to do that, we'd rent a studio and have professional graphics and professional grade everything, so this content is packaged and it's aesthetically pleasing, so people are interested. And then the second half of that is we'll syndicate the content produced by these already active teens to inactive teens via social media, which, as everyone knows, teens can't get enough of. And in doing so, we hope to inspire and engage the apathetic and uninvolved youth. And this is really something that we want everyone to participate in, and not only teenagers, but I also kind of interchangeably use the word teen and youth. I don't want to limit it to just people under 18. So that's kind of the process by which I hope to accomplish this.
So we were told that under Obama's reign, or right before he got elected, that a lot of the youth got involved into politics and a lot of the youth were let down. How do you even have that sense of hope left in you and in your generation?
Well, I think the hope is kind of needs to begin within ourselves, because we can no longer, as we've seen with my confrontation with Pelosi, we can no longer put our trust in these politicians that we know just want to, make personal gains from everything. So I think the hope really needs to begin within ourselves. And like I said, hopefully by engaging other youth into this movement and this broadcasting network that is Politicast, hopefully we can kind of turn the tide and actually have hope in the future of politics. And then also another facet of Politicast that we hope to accomplish as well is we want to do local reporting, national, and then even international reporting. With local reporting, the RNC is a great example. In 2016, it's coming here in Cleveland, which would be perfect to cover that. So that's one example of like a local event we could cover. And then nationally, we hope to, if we get the funding for this Indiegogo campaign, of course, to have traveling reporters, of course, when we have time with school and everything. And then lastly, we also hope to get contributors from around the world. If they can't come to the United States, or if they don't live in the U.S., that's completely fine. We want to supply them with the resources and equipment necessary to report on scene from whatever's happening around them, because we think that's really important.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the issues that you want to bring attention to, that you really feel like the media, the corporate media especially, has failed to address and inform the public on. What are some of those issues that you want to take on in your Politicast?
Definitely, Mnar. Probably some of the issues would overlap with those that I've already covered on Teen Take, being GMOs, the NDAA, domestic spying, the pharmaceutical industry, stuff like that. But it's also a good question that you had too, because the main thing that I'm trying to push with the Politicast as well is kind of, I guess, what media has always wanted to do but has really failed to done, being so biased and everything, and that is we want to, well, I guess the general fact is that everyone is biased. I can say I'm objective, anyone can say they're objective, but at the end of the day, pretty much everyone has a bias. So we at Politicast want to acknowledge that bias and say, personally, myself, I consider myself to be a libertarian, so that's fine. Whenever I'm on air, I'll push, a libertarian agenda. But with other people, say if one of my friends or another presenter or whatever is a liberal, that's completely fine. We want to unite everyone's biases together to form something unbiased. So, I don't think we want to push any particular agenda. Instead, we want to acknowledge everyone's opinions and everything, and hopefully that can be something and a good resource that just the media, like I said, it's kind of the media's mission statement, but they've really failed at it. So hopefully we can accomplish that.
And I understand what you mean in really educating the public on issues that kind of unite us all together. And kind of bringing back the roots of journalism, and the reason why journalism is mentioned in our Constitution is to protect the people from the state abusing its power. And I understand that that's kind of your mission that drives, or that drives your mission with Politicast.
Definitely.
So let's talk a little bit about youth not being able to vote. Why do you think it's important for youth to have a voice in politics specifically?
Great question. Yeah, the easy answer to that, in my opinion, would just be that the youth is the literal future of our country. And I think with this campaign, it's really a pressing time for this because, respectfully, I think this is an ideal time for adults to put their money where their mouth is. All too often, we hear in just general discourse, oh, the youth, they're doing drugs, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're being destructive and not constructive or productive. And I think this is a time, this is an opportunity that is unprecedented, and I think it has a lot of potential. Of course, I'm biased saying that, being the founder, the person behind this idea, but I think it just has a lot of potential. And like I said, it's something that's really never been done before on this type of scale, and like you said, it's just something, it's just a chance that the youth can be heard because, like I said, they're the future of the country. And if we don't if the youth doesn't begin taking an interest in politics, then, the future looks a little gloomy, in my opinion.
So how do people get involved and help out with getting youth involved in journalism and in politics and helping make a difference? I know you have an Indiegogo campaign. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so if anybody's interested, which would be great, you can go to Indiegogo.com. Indie is spelled Indie, and then go. And if you just search for Politicast, Politicast, then one of the top results should be the campaign page. And basically, we're asking for funding right now. Of course, we need the resources necessary to do this, but once we have that and get off the ground, I think this will be a great resource and a great way for teens and youth alike to get involved and start making the difference and change they want to see in this world. So, and even if you can't donate monetarily, that's completely fine, but if we just get a little help from a lot of people, that would be much appreciated. And like I said, if you can't donate any money, it's completely fine. But if you can, there's a ton of perks. And also, if you just want to, share or spread the word with family and friends, we just need to get the word out. And once it's out, I think it looks very promising.
Well, good. Well, I'm really glad to hear that because we do need more youth involved in politics and in journalism as well. So thank you so much, Andrew, for joining me today. You can find this podcast through our Mid-Press iTunes channel. But the conversation is far from over, as we always like to hear from our readers and our listeners about media coverage and getting youth involved in politics and in journalism. You can also post on our Facebook page in our comment section to our pinned post featuring this podcast. Make sure to like this video on YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more Midcasts interviews. Thank you so much for listening.